very much. It's good to be here. To be here in Washington State. But I will tell you, you're about as damn far away from New Jersey as you can get. It's a long haul out here. Long haul, but it's well worth it. It's well worth it because you have a candidate for governor who can change Washington State.
Bravo. Yeah.
That's worth traveling for. And I do have to say, I do have a bit of a partiality towards former prosecutors becoming great governors in blue states as Republicans. It worked in New Jersey, and if you all have faith in Rob McKenna, it is going to work here in Washington. Now, let's not have the, you dominated it all over the next 90 days by the naysayers. Because there will be people here who are going to tell you that, well, no, this guy can't win. This is a blue state. Republicans can't win. Even if they won, they couldn't govern. Well, when you get that cynical, skeptical person real close to you, whisper something in their ear. Come to New Jersey. Because if they come to New Jersey, they'll see exactly what can happen with real leadership. They'll see what can happen when a former prosecutor says, we're not going to stand for excuses any longer. We're going to tell people the truth. And sometimes that truth is difficult and ugly. And in New Jersey, as Rob said, there's nothing a whole lot uglier than an $11 billion deficit on a $29 billion budget. Oh, wow. And the thing you need to understand about that is, in the 8 years before I became governor, in New Jersey, with a Democratic governor and a Democratic legislature, they raised taxes and fees 115 times in 8 years. And you would think, if you listened to Democratic orthodoxy around the country, that if you'd raise taxes and fees that many times, you'd have a balanced budget. But instead, after all that, we had an $11 billion deficit on a $29 billion budget. Here's what people need to understand. Without strong leadership at the top, government is a beast that will never be satiated. There's never enough for your money. If you don't have strong leadership at the top that's willing to say, yes, I will spend on education. Yes, I will spend on hospitals and health care. Yes, I will spend for the developmentally disabled and those with autism who need help to reach their full potential. Yes, I'll spend on the things that help economic growth in our state to create jobs, but I'm tired of spending on every program that every special interest group comes to the state capitol and begs for or pays for. We're tired of that and we can't do it anymore. We closed that budget gap while spending a record amount this year on K-12 education, $8.8 billion on K-12 education, because we care about our children's future. We want to make sure they get the best education they possibly can. But I'm tired of paying for all the other stuff. And, the good thing that a prosecutor knows how to do when he or she becomes governor is to say no. Now, I'll tell you, some people in this business want to be loved. In fact, we're a society full of politicians who are just paralyzed by their need to be loved. Now, I got some great advice from my Sicilian mother. Yeah, well, that's a whole different kettle of fish, a Sicilian mother. But she gave me some great advice when I was a young man. She said to me, Chris, if you get a chance to choose between love and respect, always take respect. Because love without respect is always going to be fleeting. But real respect can become real strong love. Now, of course, she's talking about women. But I think this applies equally to politics. Equally to politics. People told me you couldn't talk about the issues we're talking about in New Jersey, that they were the third rail of politics, that people weren't ready to hear these hard truths. Well, they're wrong. They're wrong, and it's showing itself in New Jersey every day. We've gone after entitlements. We've gone after pensions and health benefits for public sector union workers. And let me just tell you this. I want every public sector union worker who's entitled to a pension to collect the pension. And I want folks who work in our public sector to have good health benefits. But I just don't think all of you should have to pay for all of that. They should have to pay their fair share. And my predecessor, when he came into office, my predecessor's first negotiation with the public sector unions, he gave away 14% raises over 4 years. And he stood on the front steps of the Capitol at a public sector union rally and said, "I will fight to get you a great contract." I was thinking to myself, well, who the hell are you fighting with? You're the one who gives the contract. So who are you fighting with? See, under John Corzine, collective bargaining was not done across a rectangle table. Collective bargaining was done at a round table, where everybody held hands, sang Kumbaya, and decided how much of your money they were going to take together. Now, what happens when you have a change in leadership? You know, folks said Christie hates collective bargaining. Not true. I love collective bargaining. Real adversarial collective bargaining where everybody knows who they represent. Where the union members know they got union representatives on their side of the table. And where the people of the state know they got their governor on their side of the table fighting for them. That's real collective bargaining. What did we accomplish? I just negotiated after a long, long year of negotiation with the public sector unions at the state level. We negotiated a new 4-year contract too. And what did we give them? 0% the first year, 0% the second year, 1% the third year, 1 3/4% the fourth year, 2 3/4% over 4 years. Because they knew they were negotiating with somebody who was looking out for the taxpayers first. And in a 0% inflation world, that's more than fair. And it's time to stop the giveaways. And I will tell you this. I believe if you put Rob McKenna in the governor's chair in Olympia, he will deal fairly but firmly with the public sector unions. They will get a fair deal, but not a fat deal. They will get what they deserve, not what they can muscle out of a governor who's too scared or too bought by the public sector unions to say anything but yes. Rob McKenna will say no until the right deal comes, and then he'll say yes for Washington State. So don't let these folks, these political operatives, who will try to scare you over the next 90 days, don't let them scare you and your friends and your neighbors. This guy knows how to lead. He knows how to be responsible. You've watched him for 8 years as your Attorney General act with integrity, bring ingenuity to law enforcement, bring honor to his job and to his public service. And you can't ask for a whole lot more from a public servant than that. And also don't believe that a Republican governor can't work with a Democratic legislature. Everything that Rob talked about I've done, and everything I just went through that I added to that list, all was done on a bipartisan basis. Because I have a Democratic legislature. I can't get anything passed without Democratic votes. So it's my job to make sure I lead and lead in a way that keeps the public behind me and convinces the Democrats in my legislature that what they should worry more about is not whether you have an R or a D after your name, but whether the ideas that come out of your mouth will make our state a better place. I've convinced Democrats to join me in making New Jersey a better place, and it is long overdue to have a different voice, giving a different message in the state capitol in Washington, and come November 6th, that different voice in a new direction will be Rob McKenna. Some of you all may have gotten to know me a little bit over the internet over the years. And if you have, I guess you know that I'm not a guy who shies away from saying some harsh things about people when they've earned it. But I'm trying to be a nice guy tonight here in Washington. No? No! All right, I'll just do nothing. I mean, let's try to think with common sense for a moment about this race. Now, all of you have watched what's going on in Washington, D.C. You've seen how dysfunctional it is, how Congress can't get out of its own way, how they no longer talk to each other, they just talk at each other. You have a president in the White House who's unengaged, doesn't know how to lead, and you have a government that is just careening away, adding $1.5 trillion in debt every year on the backs of us, our children, our grandchildren, and they can't get anything done. Let me ask you a question. You really want to bring somebody from Washington, D.C. to be the governor of Washington? I mean, are you people nuts? What are you thinking? This is the absolute wrong time to bring Washington, D.C. values to Washington State. What you need is I'm sure Congressman Inslee's a nice guy.
No.
But here's the problem. He's Congressman Inslee. And he's been part of the problem in Washington, D.C., and I will tell you something. You don't want to import Washington, D.C. problems to Washington State.
Right.
You need a new start, a new direction, and Rob McKenna's going to give it to you. So let me conclude with this. You know, when I got elected in 2009, folks told me that, you know, Chris, you've got to be careful. You're in a blue state. You're in a blue state. You can't be going after the big things. Try to do little things. Try to just move along slowly. And don't worry, everything will be just fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly right. They didn't know my Sicilian mother. But I will tell you, I've taken a completely different approach. And I suspect Rob McKenna will do the same thing if he's elected. You know, Rob and I will take the same kind of approach, which is we're Republicans in blue states. And Rob, you'll get this feeling after you're sworn in as governor. You're going to get to, man, I'm playing with house money. I'm not supposed to win this thing. I'm not supposed to. I'm a Republican here. So now, when you're playing with house money, swing for the fences. It's time to swing for the fences to take on the big issues, the big problems that they've all ignored before in Olympia, the ones that they don't talk to you about at cocktail parties, the ones they don't send you in the little press releases they send out, the ones that they try to ignore but continue to make life tougher and tougher for everyday people here in Washington. What you need now is someone who's not obsessed with re-election. You need someone who is committed to moving Washington State forward. This is a guy who doesn't care. Doesn't care.
Yes, he does.
Whether re-election is going to happen, if what that means is that he's got to compromise his principles in the process. And here's the funny thing we're finding in New Jersey. For nearly 3 years now, I've refused to compromise my principles. I've found compromise where I can with Democrats. I've made sure that I've spoken loudly and clearly through 92 town hall meetings in my 2.5 years as governor directly with the people of my state. Told them exactly how I feel about issues. And let them ask me whatever questions they wanted to ask me. We've engaged with each other on tough issues, big things that people ignored before. And everybody said that's political suicide. Well, when I left New Jersey this week, I had a 56% job approval rating. Democrats are scratching their head. Independents are glad that they finally elected somebody who wants to solve the real problems. And Republicans are saying, oh my gosh, we might win again. That's what happens when you take up this position. So now, less than 90 days to go, it's up to you. You know how hard he's going to work. You know how hard he's been working. You know how hard he's going to work over the next 90 or so days. You know he's going to try to make things happen in this campaign that will show the people of the state of Washington who he really is and what he's all about and what his hopes and his dreams and his plans are for this state when he becomes your governor. Don't let him down. Don't let him down. Don't buy into the defeatism of the past. Don't buy into conventional wisdom that tells you this stuff can't happen. And don't think that your job is done tonight because you came here and you wrote a check, even though we appreciate you doing it. Your job now for the next 90 days is, with as much spare time as you have, away from your business, away from your job, away from your family, we need you to spend it on him. We need you not to wake up on November 7th and think, I could have done a little bit more, I could have made a difference. Remember something, just south of here, in 2010 in Oregon had a chance to do something great, and they came a few thousand votes short of electing Chris Dudley their governor. And I was on the phone with Chris that night on election night. And he was saying, geez, what could I have done differently? A few thousand votes, Governor. A few thousand votes. I don't want anybody in Washington State having that conversation with Rob McKenna on the morning of November 7th. What I want you to feel on the morning of November 7th is that you were part of changing the direction of Washington State, that you worked with him to make a difference in the lives of our children and grandchildren, that you stood up to the entrenched interests in Olympia and said, you know what? It's time for a change in this state, and a real change. And if you vote and work as hard as you can for Rob McKenna in the next 90 days, he will not let you down. Thank you all very much.